Gamer Magazine is sitting with Wynand Meiring, Mind Sports South Africa's Hearthstone 2015 champion. How are you today, Wynand?
I'm pretty well, thanks. And yourself?
I can't complain, thank you. Wynand, let's start off by discussing how did you get involved in esports?
Well, basically, I grew up with gaming my whole childhood life. And then like one day I just browsed the internet and I actually saw that people are like actually competing online in like small competitions and stuff like that. And I started participating in it and I was like, wow, this is actually quite fun. And I mean, I remember my first ever prize I won was $200 at a high school online event basically. And then, then basically from there I just started progressing and started playing more and more. And now I am where I am at the moment.
You play a game, it's basically a card game called Hearthstone, and there are obviously a lot of other different type of games that you can compete in.
Yes.
Why did you start playing Hearthstone, and once you've told us that, could you explain what Hearthstone is about?
Okay, well, just to give you an idea, when I started playing competitive, like super serious, I played a game called DOTA 2, which is basically a team-based game of 5 players. So basically at the end of the day, what happened was, if everyone doesn't put the same amount of hours in, then obviously one player is gonna be like the weakest link and then you're gonna start losing. So that's basically what happened. So then I decided, you know what, I can't deal with it. So I decided to switch to a solo game, and the best solo game to learn the fastest was Hearthstone. So basically Hearthstone is it's a card game, but it's like a digital version of, like, for example, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic of the Gathering, right? So you need to construct a deck of 30 cards. You can choose between 9 classes, and then you play against someone online. You can't play it offline, it's online only, and then basically you just need to win your opponent. You both have, for example, 30 HP, and obviously the one that reaches 0 first obviously loses, while the other one wins. Yes.
For the viewers who are not following too well, we have included links that explain Hearthstone in much greater detail, so you guys can click on that below the interview. Wynand, you know, esport gaming, it's a credible thing to watch. I mean, I myself I use technology, but not to that extent. What are the technicalities to esport gaming? Obviously, you're going to need very good both hardware and software. So let's talk a little bit about that. What equipment do you use?
Like me like me in specific,
yeah,
or like do you need in
specific.
general?
Well, what does that? Okay, let's talk about. Let's make it. What does the average esport gamer? What do they need in order to play?
Well, they need a pretty good. Well, obviously for ferals, like a mechanical keyboard, for example, because obviously Hearthstone is not the only online game that's being played. There's games like Counter-Strike, StarCraft 2, League of Legends, Dota, obviously, and like Call of Duty, for example. So they need like a mechanical keyboard, which is like fast on the buttons and everything, and where you can make macros. Macros is like shortcuts for like combined keys. So instead of pressing 3 keys at once, you press only 1 key, because you obviously made a macro, which is like combining them together in one button. And then obviously a mouse, obviously that's it's like, let's say, extra buttons or something like that, so that you can also macro them, and obviously with good sensitivity. Then a pretty good headset, because if you play a team-based game, then obviously you're going to need to be able to hear your teammates pretty well and communicate together at the same time while hearing the sound game as well, the game of the sound. For example, for Counter-Strike, like when you hear enemy movement, if your team speak, let's say that's your voice chat you use, is too loud, then you won't be able to hear the enemy when they're actually close, and then they can kill you before you actually even hear them. Just an example. And then you need a pretty good screen, especially for first-person games like a BenQ, because you need your hertz to be quite high so it can refresh at a faster rate. And then obviously you need internet, pretty good internet. And the hardware itself, like your box, doesn't have to be like that big, just to be able to handle average graphics and like a normal CPU and stuff like that. But the biggest problem in South Africa, for example, the internet, the reason why South Africans struggle a bit to compete against overseas players is because of the internet. The latency is too much. So the average latency you get now, for example, online, is 200 milliseconds. That means you have 0.2 second delay on your action. So every time you make an action, the server takes 0.2 seconds before it responds on your action that you actually made. Yes.
You've just mentioned the internet, and it was something I was going to bring up. What are the difficulties besides from the internet that South African esport gamers have in being able to not only play in South Africa but play overseas?
Well, sponsorships to start with. Like if you look at overseas players, when they need to compete, like let's say someone from Russia needs to compete in America, their sponsorships usually pays for their flying tickets, accommodation, everything they need to be able to go to that country. And obviously the only thing they basically need to take is like spending money. Sponsorships just is obviously they don't really offer that much yet. And like competition prizes, the thing is with South Africans, the difference between South Africans and overseas players can do it as a career. We can't. Like, because their sponsorships and stuff like pay them salaries. And the prizes they can win from actual competitions are like huge compared to South Africa. I mean, like last year at Rage, the Hearthstone prize pool was only 10,000. And I can't remember the DOTA one, but you have to remember the DOTA prize pool has to be split between 5 players. So let's say even if it's 50,000, then it's only 10,000 each anyway for each player. And then you get some hardware and some stuff like that. But another way you can generate money is by using by doing live streaming, like with Twitch. But then again, our internet most of the time is a problem because you need a high upload speed. For example, you need a 4 meg upload if you want to live stream in high definition quality. And like at my work, for example, we got 50 meg fiber up and down, and that's 9,000 a month. Can you name an average gamer here that's going to should be able to afford 9,000 a month? I don't think so.
And outside of the financial aspect of it, what else would a South African esports gamer struggle with?
Well, basically, obviously having access to the internet, because obviously internet is a lot more wide available in South Africa. But the biggest thing I think is the amount of time they can spend on the games to be able, because obviously if you look at overseas players, one guy can, like the one guy I specifically know that I met in South Korea, he spends 10 hours a day just by practicing. We can't. So what I basically put in a week, he puts in one day. So obviously his experience and skill level is going to be a lot higher than mine because of the time he has. South Africans just simply doesn't have that kind of time at the moment. You know,
you just said that you're not able to make any sort of decent living from gaming. You do make some sort of money from it, but not enough to sustain you. So then I'm assuming you have a day job. What is it that you do?
I'm an IT technician at the moment.
And what company do you work for?
I work for AI Technology at the moment, but I'm starting at a new company the 16th of May. I'm moving the 13th of May to Randburg, but I can't name the company just because of
so you work in the IT business?
Yes, I'm in the IT business.
And then you just said now that these guys overseas are training pretty much most of the day, yes. And then but you guys can't. What is your training like, and what exactly does your training entail?
Well, basically when I train, I watch online streams. I'm watching pro players. I see what they do, what I don't do, for example. Because obviously when you play a certain game, you have a certain mindset. Other people don't necessarily think the same way you do. So when you watch other pro players play, and you're like, okay, he's going to make that move, and then all of a sudden he makes a different move. Then you're like, okay, but why did you do that? And then like 3-4 turns later, you actually say, oh, now I see why you did that move, that turn. It gives you a different perspective of the game. Then I try new decks, new cards, like just to see if they work, if they don't work. You have to experiment. Especially now, for example, about 2 weeks ago, the new expansion got released. 134 new cards was introduced in Hearthstone. The expansion is called Whisper of the Old Gods. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of experimenting going on at the moment. So the meta isn't defined yet. Even all the pro players around the world are experimenting and stuff like that. Then obviously I read up, and then I obviously practice about an hour and a half a day if I can, maybe 2 hours if I'm lucky, depending what time I get at home.
Wynand, you are the MSSA national champion for Hearthstone, and it's quite incredible when I read this. You were invited to it is invite-only tournament of 250 participants out of 75 million. That's what I read in one of the articles. 75 million.
Yes, no. That was the Underground Sound Blaster X tournament that I got invited to.
I mean, 250 out of 75 million people.
Yes.
What was it like being in the same venue with pretty much the best 250 players in the world?
Well, basically, well, it was, I can't even explain it to you. It was pressure, like I was melting basically. My girlfriend was there with me, and yeah, the pressure was just, it's insane. Well, I managed to play 75th out of the 250 players. So obviously, I did fall out the first day, because the first day it was obviously group stages, and only the top 64 of the 250 players is going to go through to the next, to the elimination bracket, if I can put it like that. Yes, and I ended up 75th out of the 250 players. So obviously, I didn't make the main event, but obviously, the top 100 did get, I think I told you, a Soundbar, the X t-shirt, and the cool USB necklace chain thingy that you can like attach a USB on and stuff like that.
What was the biggest thing you learned playing in a tournament like that?
Well, you see, when you play Hearthstone, you get a mode called ranked, and then obviously you get your tournaments. People bring to tournaments decks you would never think of. So when they play a certain deck, for example, when they play like the first 3 cards they play, like, okay, he's playing a deck similar to this one, because there's like a standard for everyone. So when he plays like certain cards in certain turns, like, okay, so he's probably playing this deck, and then all of a sudden the next turn he catch you with this card, and you're like, okay. And then the problem is you don't know what to expect, because you have no idea what type of deck he's playing. And then that's basically where I lost most of my games, because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to react towards the cards the guys played. So the biggest thing I learned was like they're unpredictable. They're really, really, really unpredictable. You don't know what to expect. And obviously I need to somehow do that as well. Apply that to my decks as well.
You've represented South Africa, as I just said, in South Korea last year. Where do we rank in terms of, if you compare us to other nations, besides from what we struggle with in terms of internet and the ability to make money from this, where do we rank as players? Are we any good?
Well, last year there were supposed to be 35 countries that should have played at the ICF, but only 28 came. And South Africa placed 12, if that means anything to you. So we're not top 10 yet, but if we can get, because the problem with the ICF is it's a point-based system of all the games. So let's say, for example, your StarCraft player wins the StarCraft title, but your Hearthstone and your League of Legends and DOTA teams do poorly, then South Africa is still going to place badly, even though you actually took a title and took a medal. That's how it works. So if everyone does pretty well, you accumulate obviously enough points to rank, let's say, top 10. 2 years ago, 2014, we were ranked 13th. So we basically moved up 1 spot last year. But if we can get the right people this year, then we can make top 10, definitely.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, you ranked higher than most traditional sports are in South Africa. So that's a pretty phenomenal feat. There's the old adage that it's one thing to get to the top, it's another to stay there.
Yes, it is.
What are your goals going forward?
Well, the one guy I met in last year in South Korea, he's a pro player. He ranks. Like to quickly give you an idea. When you play rank, when you have to go through ranks and then you reach a rank called legend. Once you reach legend, the legend has a number attached to it. So you have to see if you can get the top 100 legend. So that's basically top 100 out of 75 million players for that season. Okay? So the one guy I met attains that every month, top 100. Because every month is one season lasts a month basically. Every month he attains top 100. So basically, he's coaching me a bit and he's helping me a lot to improve. And obviously, he's obviously doing it as a full-time job as well. So obviously, he has the time, he has the money, he's making the money, he's getting the money from the sponsorships. And yeah, I think if I'm gonna get anywhere like where I am now, it's gonna be thanks to him, because he's really helping me a lot. And like when I even watch him play, like I said, he's playing a lot differently than the way I'm playing at the moment. Not that my way is bad, but obviously you need to see how other people play so that you can adjust as well.
No, so in a sense, he's your mentor.
Basically, yes.
You are the current Battle for the Throne champion as well.
Yes.
Talk us through that. What is that?
Well, basically, Arena host each year. I don't know if they're actually going to... I'm pretty sure they're going to host one this year, but last year they hosted 2. So people basically battle to be like a Caesar. It's basically being like a Caesar, right? So the first one I never participated in because I never knew about it. Then I heard about the second one, okay? So then you need to go through elimination bracket, where you have to eliminate everyone. Then you play...
Just stop you there. When you say everyone, how many is everyone?
Well, it depends how many people entered.
And what's the average?
About 30 to 50 in South Africa, yes. Then you basically need to eliminate all of them. Then you have to play against the challenger that challenged the Caesar the last tournament, but didn't make it. Then you have to beat him. When you beat him, then you are now worthy to challenge the actual Caesar. And then obviously if you beat the Caesar, then you take the throne for him, and then you battle for the throne king, and then they label you as the BFTT king. And then obviously you saw the pick they made with I'm the current king and everything. So now with the next one, I'm not going to play in any elimination or anything. I'm going to wait until someone is now worthy to challenge me, and then we're going to see if he's going to be able to take my spot or not.
It's just incredible, you know, listening to you speak and seeing the passion in your eyes while you describe your sport. I think that a big thing for me is that you guys are able to play against anyone in the world without even having to travel to their country. It's not like when the Springboks played the All Blacks in New Zealand, they had to travel to New Zealand to do it.
Yes.
And I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for dialogue. You're able to learn from each other by sitting in the comfort of your own room, and I think that's really incredible. Wynand, you know, on behalf of Game On Magazine, you've really blown our minds. It's been an incredible experience for myself and for the magazine, considering that this is our first esports insert. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it. You've opened up a whole new world for, I think, a lot of South Africans who never knew that they could do this. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time as well. It's been quite nice being here as well, being able to talk about it.